Hi, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Louis. A board workshop of the Board of Trustees of the McAllen Independent School District will be held today, Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022, beginning at 4 p.m. inside the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom at the Administration Building of the McAllen Independent School District at 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen. At this meeting, there may be discussion by the board on the items and subjects that listed as followed. A, we'll call the meeting to order. Item 3, the budget workshop, discussion of compensation plan options for school year 2022-2023. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The district's ability to offer competitive salaries is critical to ensure we are able to continue to attract and retain highly qualified staff, and administration will share our compensation plan options for the school year 22-23 for further discussion. Mr. Todd Miller, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, will share more information, and this item is for information purposes only. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller, before you jump into it, let me put it on the record that Trustee Vela, Trustee Suarez, Trustee Aliceda, and myself are present live on the dais. We also have Trustee Sam Saldiva joining us by Zoom, and we have Trustee Sofia Peña attempting to connect. So right now there are 5 of us present. As state law mandates, 4 must be present in a quorum, and then the rest can join us via Zoom. So, Mr. Miller, take it away, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez and Board of Trustees. We want to thank our Board of Trustees for your valuable input during the 22-23 budget workshops. The executive leadership team, along with several district team members, have contributed greatly to the compensation plan options that will be discussed tonight. You will see that all compensation plan options also include a one-time holiday pay component. Additional payments made to staff are a part of compensation structure and are conducted with the intent to recognize and honor the dedication, loyalty, and contributions of our employees. We are confident that these compensation plan options will enable the district to continue to attract and retain highly qualified staff. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Cindy Richard for further discussion of our compensation plan options.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, and Superintendent and Board of Trustees. This does represent the district's 7th budget workshop, and based on feedback we received at the last board meeting, we have tried to develop different scenarios for board consideration. What you have in front of you are some updated scenarios. It's 4 columns. The very first column represents what was presented at the last board meeting. It's broken up into 3 sections: the compensation, the holiday pay, and the total of both of those components. Again, starting out with the last recommendation, we did start out with a 2% pay increase for all staff and a $500 additional holiday pay for all staff. What we'd like to note is that this time we've introduced scenarios A, B, and C. What is consistent with all 3 scenarios is that it does include an equity adjustment for our teachers and librarians with 20 years of experience or more. And it does also increase the holiday pay from $500 to $1,500. So those are the 2 data elements that are consistent throughout scenario A, B, and C. And I'll begin with scenario A. Scenario A is broken down into 2 categories. Those teachers and librarians with 1 to 19 years of experience. The proposal is a 2.5% pay increase, which is $1,420. And teachers with 20 plus years of experience, 3% represents a pay compensation of $1,700. In addition to that, we're looking at administrative professional. Those would be at 2% of their midpoint, and all other staff at 4% of their midpoint. Looking at scenario B, that particular scenario is recommending a 3% increase for all teachers and librarians. Again, that would be $1,700, and a 3% increase for all staff. When we look at scenario C, again, that is recommending a 3% pay compensation for librarians and teachers of $1,700. It would also include 3% for all other staff. The difference between scenario B and scenario C actually comes in the area of administrative professional. What is happening in scenario C is that it is capping everybody at a $1,700 pay increase. So what that means is that for those professionals whose 3% midpoint would have been, say, $1,500, they would actually receive $1,700. And for those professionals whose pay increases would have been $2,000, their pay increase would be capped at $1,700. So it kind of brings it all into the $1,700 on there. So now when we're looking at just the teacher librarian pay, just so that you can see this as a comparison, what we presented at the last board meeting was the June 13th. The total for that compensation plan would be $1,640. That would be $1,140 for compensation and a $500 one-time holiday pay. When we're looking at scenario A, that would be for the teachers and librarians with 1 to 19 years of experience. That pay would be $1,420. The one-time holiday pay would be $1,500 for a total compensation package of $2,920. For teachers with 20 plus years experience, the compensation would be $1,700, again with the one-time pay of $1,500, for a total package of $3,200. And when we look at scenarios B and C, again for all teachers, it would be 3% with compensation at $1,700, a one-time holiday pay of $1,500 for a total of $3,200. Now, just to see where this will get us moving forward, on June 13th, we talked about utilizing and leveraging the ESSER 3 funds in order to balance the budget, and that was $5,500,000. If we're looking at scenario A, that would be an additional cost of $990,677 for a total cost of $6,490,677. If we look at scenario B, that would be an additional cost of $1,187,769. Again, in addition to the $5.5 million we had previously discussed, that would be a total cost to the district of $6,687,769. And when we look at scenario C, the additional cost for that is $930,199, including the $5.5 million. That's a total cost of $6,430,199. And again, we just wanted to remind you that this is available because of an ESSER 3 one-time reclass in order to balance the general fund. And also to keep in mind that as we move forward, this funding will most likely not be available for fiscal year 23-24 moving forward in order to maintain these compensation adjustments. Now, we looked at ESSER 3 as we look at the additional funding that we were requiring, which is anywhere between $930,000 to $1,187,000. And the project that was being looked at in terms of pausing would be an ESSER 3 tech-wired classroom projects on there. Again, at the bottom, you're going to find the holiday pay. With the $500 holiday pay, that was going to cost $1,712,500. We have bumped that up to $1,500, and that cost will be $3,594,760, and that will actually be funded through the general fund assigned fund balance. And what we've got for just information are the categories that fall under administrative education and administrative management. And that concludes my report.
All right. Board, I'm going to open up the questions. We'll start with those that are joining us electronically. Joining us as Mrs. Richards began her presentation was Trustee Sofia Peña and Trustee Conrado Ito Alvarado. So via Zoom, Sam, do you have any questions for administration?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do. I'm trying to understand, help me here, on the administrative positions. You have the administrative education include, and then you list them there. And then you have the administrative management include, and you list those as well. But I see some are on both sides of the column. Like you have assistant superintendents for business ops, district ops, and HR. And then you have it on the left column, the administrative education, you have assistant superintendent for instructional services. Okay, you only have the instructional service for assistant superintendent. Why is that individual not with the management side?
They're the assistant superintendent.
Superintendent for instruction, superintendent.
They've always been classified on the AE side because of their instructional arena and not the management side.
But isn't that role, your role as management, just like it is for all the others that are part of the executive leadership team?
Yes, but they're more focused on the.
Let me rephrase this. Is it mandated by statute, or is this a position that the district has taken, that those that are administrative education includes this individual? Did we determine this, or is this mandated, or is it something that TASB suggested that administrative education includes these individuals?
We can research that,
Yeah.
Trustee Saldivar. I know that since I've been here, it's been that way. I don't know if it's based on statute. It's just been that when we're working on the administrative education side, since our two assistant superintendent and our associate work directly on the instructional side, and district operations and business operations are more on the management side. That's the way it's always been classified. But we can find out the impetus and how this became, but it has been a practice in our district since I've been aware.
And I would venture to say, because our positions are vetted by TASB, that we probably did also receive some recommendation from them as we moved forward. And I would want to think that what we have is probably their best practices in terms of what they consider our educational leadership versus our operational leadership.
And I understand that, and I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, it does, but at the same time, this is my thought, and maybe a question now, is could we, as a team of 8, decide that we'll only fund the administrative education side versus the administrative management side? Could we separate those out and take a different course as we proceed with these discussions?
That would be a question that we would have to discuss.
I know that from my perspective in working with the executive leadership team, and I know in scenario C, we're capping at 1,700. If you look at the ELT, regardless of they're on the AE or the AM, they all contribute to our success as a district. So I think that we feel better that if we're going to cap at 1,700, that we cap for all, and that we don't say that, for example, Mrs. V and Dr. De Hoyos play a bigger role in our performance as a district, because we know that Mrs. Richards and now Adele and Alejandra's position are just as key with regard to the environment they produce. So we would feel more comfortable from an administrative standpoint being consistent with both with regard to compensation.
Well, one of the things that when I was contacted and discussed, and I had a follow-up phone call with one of the assistant superintendents, is I had suggested that there be a minimum salary rate or minimum wage rate, which currently is $11 per hour, to be moved up to $15 an hour. And so where are we on that? Did the administration decide that was something they didn't want to do? I just think if we're going to be competitive, we at least ought to be moving incrementally, towards that $15.
Yes, sir.
As a wage, a minimum salary wage within the district for auxiliary staff and those hourly rate staff.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the interruption. I did reach out to TASB pending their response. She was on the road traveling back to Austin. So we did discuss briefly the Brownsville scenario. So she's going to look at our pay rate minimum, $11 an hour, what it would cost to get us to 15, and then phase it in over a 2-3 year period. What would that cost?
Okay, so we're not able to make that decision tonight.
No, sir.
But it's definitely something we can keep on the forefront.
Certainly, yeah, certainly for further discussion.
Well, regardless of what Tasby said, there are districts out there that have made that move already. Gone from 10, 11 all the way to 15. As you and I discussed, I said I'm fine with incremental, maybe move to 13, and then next year's budget consider maybe moving to 14, and then the following year budget, which will be 3 years from now, is get it to 15. It's taking a risk because the other districts are already at 15, and they could take incrementals as well. But could we make that decision or have that discussion and come to that decision tonight, or does it require that TASB give us, the information first?
I think just so that we have all the pertinent information and guidelines, we should hold off on that. There's no reason why we can't come back later on once we have all the information and do an adjustment as necessary.
Ms. Richards, are we allowed, once we approve the budget, to make any adjustment like that after the school year starts?
The compensation plan is set before contracts begin, and we do have contracts that begin July 1st, August 1st, and September 1st. So for those
So we have some latitude to make an amendment?
So for those particular pay classifications, the compensation would have to be determined prior to the begin date of their contract.
Yes, if I may add, the policy says for contract employees, if you're going to change their pay rate or salary after the school year began, you would have to have a public hearing. On non-contract employees, it'd have to be in case their duties increase or something to that effect.
So I think the question that we need to get, I'm sorry, Sam, the question I think we need to get answered is which one of our contract employees are at below $15 per hour and which one of our non-contract employees are below $15 per hour.
Our contract employees are not below $15. Now you're talking the auxiliary.
Now we're
folks.
talking the auxiliary. Okay, so can we come back later in towards July or August once we've completed the break and have that discussion?
My understanding had been that the pays had to be set before their contracts began.
Okay,
That's my interpretation.
Understood.
We can certainly reach out and get clarification on that.
okay.
It's my understanding that unless their job classification rate changes after the school year starts and the budget has been approved, you cannot make changes to the rates that the board is establishing tonight. That's my understanding. Because unless they change, which we're not talking about that, we're talking about a minimum salary range for either current employees or employees that may be wanting to come to the district. And to make us competitive, I think it makes sense to make a move. And so, I think we can make that decision, but, you know, again, when I reached out and discussed this with, or you all reached out and discussed it with me last week, Thursday, I suggested you all look at this. And when I followed up yesterday, you know, the information hadn't been looked at. So, I don't know how it becomes my problem.
Well,
The other is there any, besides that one program, is there a plan by the administration to stop any other ESSER-funded programs for review at this time? Aside from the one that's listed, which is the ESSER 3 Tech Wire Classroom Project, which has been, you know, I guess suspended for those funds to be repurposed. Are there any other plans by the administration to stop any other ESSER-funded programs that haven't already been started?
No, sir.
For review by the board and administration.
No, sir.
That was the other thing that I mentioned in my conversation, that it needed to be. So, the third is that in my discussions with the administration last week, was that whatever we did, if this is upfront loading, like we did after House Bill 3, when it was a by-hand budget, we front loaded it, paid everybody the salary range that we did, something in the neighborhood of 7%. The second year, we didn't pay anybody anything. That if we're gonna make these moves, these recommendations, is that this will not prohibit us from every year providing a salary increase to staff. So is this uploading, and considering that there's likely not gonna be a salary increase next year, because that's not acceptable. We gotta figure out how to fund both going forward without any gap years if we're gonna remain competitive. So is there any plan to make sure that we're able to fund an increase next year for all these individuals, not necessarily these percentages and these figures, but at least some? That is worked into the plan and into the discussion.
Yes, sir. It's very, as we all know, it's very hard to predict the future and with regard to funding. So we just like every year, just like every other school district across the state, we want to compensate, but we have to take it year by year. So knowing that we're going in, if we look at the different scenarios and we can see the challenges that are before us with regard to the deficit we're starting with, I'm not saying that we're not going to give a raise, but it's definitely going to be a challenge, regardless of whether we scale back on projects, ESSER projects or not. I think ESSER projects would all be one-time payments if we went down that road, but it wouldn't do anything for us with regard to compensation moving forward. I think that's one. In meeting with the commissioners today, they are entertaining different methods of funding for us around safety and security, and then also the conversation about basing our funding on enrollment and membership and not ADA is on the table. So that would be tremendous for us if that happened. But as we sit today, we're going to do our very best to provide compensation, but it's very difficult to predict the future.
Well, one of the things that I had suggested is no different than what we did as a board in Aggressive with us discussing as a team of 8, is when we settled the hail loss claim, we put that into a certain category and locked it in, and it could only be spent for the hail. And the administration did a fantastic job doing that because it was all locked in, all accountable. The same thing we did with capital projects. We decided that we needed to know where we were with capital projects, and so a category was created for that. And all our capital projects, as we make those decisions, are there, and the administration's keeping track and tabs of all that, especially on the life cycle maintenance, et cetera. I suggested, and again in my meeting, that we needed to come up, for lack of a better way to phrase it, is a bucket list for compensation, so that throughout the year, as we find opportunities, and when we had our last meeting on the 17th, during that discussion, we found several opportunities, almost $2 million, where we would get recaptured funds that actually be put in a bucket for compensation. And if we do that, and as we do cost avoidance, cost savings, and expense management, those funds should be put in the bucket. So does the administration develop a plan where they're going to create a category we're able to track where you're moving saved funds into that category? So as we move throughout the year, we know what direction we're heading, instead of waiting until the very end to see what might be left, migajas, for paying staff. I think it should be at the forefront. It should be up front.
Yes, knowing that,
So is there a plan?
knowing that we have a challenge going into creating the following year's budget. It's certainly something that administration is looking at, not only in terms of current projects, current curriculums we have, current services we have, but we'll also be tracking that from the personnel perspective. That is the plan going into next year. Administration is well aware of the challenges we're up against. We know that regardless of which scenario is selected, if one is selected, at a minimum, we're looking at a $5.5 million amount to balance the next budget, as going into the next budget cycle. So it certainly is in the forefront of the items we need to address moving into next year. And it certainly is something that process is gonna start in July. It's gonna certainly start in July, because we know that it's not something that can be resolved come next April and May. It's gonna be a process that will begin in July, and everything will be reviewed, everything will be on the table, anything from personnel to supplies to contracts. So certainly that is the direction that administration will go in as we continue to look at ways to balance the budget, because we've got to go into this process assuming that there is not going to be additional aid, assuming that there will be nothing else for us to hinge on, whether it's a change in funding from ADA to enrollment, or whatever else might be out there for school districts. So certainly coming in knowing that right now we need to find areas of savings so that we can sustain and maintain any of our compensation scenarios.
I have other questions, Mr. President, but I'm going to let others speak. I already took a good time. I really appreciate it, and I'll save it for a later time.
Thank you, Trustee Saldivar. Trustee Peña.
Yes. Hi, can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I want to say hello to everybody. I apologize for not being there. I work and I can't always make it on time at a 5 o'clock or a 4 o'clock meeting. But my concerns are that I want to make sure that we not only compensate teachers, but the tenured teachers at that. I know we have that situation with the cap on there, but we need to look at that. And also that we are safe and secure. If our schools are not safe, if we are not prepared for what just occurred in Uvalde and across the country, then no learning happens. So I'm going to harp on those again and again, every meeting that I can. And then I want us to stop with the special projects for now. We're jumping into special projects, and we really need to look at these long-term compensation plans. If we're starting our year 5.5 million in the hole next year because we can't balance and be able to compensate and be competitive and keep our good teachers and get good teachers coming to the district, then what are we doing? So I'm going to go into, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. And I'm upset because I've gotten a lot of phone calls from parents, from members of the community, my phone, my email, my text messages, all going nuts. We need to do better, and we need to do so as a community. So I'm listening to everybody that's calling me, that's texting me, that's messaging me. I feel that responsibility and I hear it and I see it. Middle school sports, I'm going to say it again. I know it's not popular to say no to sports, but it's not the time for middle school sports right now. We have, I believe, 11, am I correct, 11 middle schools? So that's 3 sports, 11 schools, 6, I'm so sorry. 6 middle schools. Either way, the number 6, 11, or 15. 6 middle schools, 3 different new sports. That means coaches, that means stipends, that means facilities preparation, that means security, budgets for making sure that kids get fed during those events too. So that's a huge expense. I haven't heard from anyone in the community telling me, oh my God, we need middle school sports and we need it now. We need to pay our teachers, our custodians, our bus drivers, and everybody now. That's what we need to do. So I personally am saying no to middle school sports right now. I'm ready and willing to entertain middle school sports at another time, not right now. Especially if we're having a hard time paying our teachers and everybody else, and then trying to start a year on a good budget for next year. Special projects. We've ventured into some pretty innovative special projects, but I'm concerned about the UTRGV project. And I've made my concerns to administration loud and clear. $12.5 million going to UTRGV for what is essentially an early college high school. And nobody can tell me different because I'm a pioneer of the early college high school movement in the Rio Grande Valley and in the state of Texas. I was there. I was part of the policy writing team. I've been there. I know exactly what it is. We have Achieve Early College High School, and I'm going to champion for Achieve Early College High School at every turn that I can. This project is not, and I kept getting told over and over, it's a one-time purchase. It's a one-time deal. It's not a one-time expense. Once you get into a project like that, if you don't have a 5-year sustainability plan, and I haven't seen one, but if there is one, I'd love to see it. If we can sustain that kind of a school for 5 years, then I'm wrong, and you can take that back, and I'll take that back. But it's an early college high school concept. That's all it is. The difference is we're partnering with UTRGV, and I am the biggest proponent for higher ed and getting our kids a head start. But we need to pay our teachers, our custodians, and everybody else, and we need to do that now. And so I'm not in support of any more big, special, innovative, one-time, chance of a lifetime projects. I'm not. And that may not be popular either, and it may not be popular with the people that are part of that project, but it's not popular with me not to be able to pay our teachers and everybody else what they should be getting paid for all that they do. And so in going back to that one, because I have so many things going through my head, and I'm pretty upset going into this meeting, and I hope that we can come to a good situation here. At the end of the day, I hope that we're able to give our teachers something that will help, but starting tomorrow, we need to start working on a long-term compensation plan. We should have cost of living increases for our employees. They should be able to count on being able to pay their bills and put gas in their vehicles and feed their families and then some. We're all beyond blessed, and I think that we need to do our best for that. So no more special projects on my plate, at least. Don't bring them to me. I'm not going to support them until we have something better for teachers and for safety. And I'm going to yield the floor with that and see where we head with this plan tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Peña. Trustee Alvarado.
Yes. I just want to echo Trustee Sandoval's comments. Some of the questions he asked and the points that he brought up were some along the same lines that I was thinking of. The last meeting, he found 2 million savings or coming back to coming back to the district and projects that we're going to get reimbursed. I also concur with him that needs to be identified, put away for salaries, for use for later. I mean, if at the end of the year we find some additional savings, or we decide, let's just say the KETA project doesn't come to fruition. Yeah, 4 million sitting there. I would love to able to identify that, put it into it, because at the end of the year you could pay a retention bonus for every teacher that stayed with us through the end of June. So there's a couple ways of doing it, but I do think it's a little bit of a paradigm shift. Is that it's not just we think about teachers' raise towards the end of the year when we start a budget workshop, and I'm not throwing anybody the bus. I'm just telling you from my end, from as a trustee, that has to be a year security. I know the tax ratification election took care of a lot of it. We're able to put police officers and secure our schools and what have you. We still have other steps to do. I concur, if we get, that 6 million, that comes in by changes in enrollment, I'd love to see some set aside for security, but also set a majority of that for teacher salary. And again, that would go into that, fund kind of set aside for, for teachers. So I guess what I'm going to say in short is that any other type of funding, to kind of echo what Trustee Peña said, any new funding or anything else that comes, I think, well, I'm not saying I think, I know it's got to go for into some type of pay for our teachers. So I'll yield. I appreciate working the different options, because it gives the board to choose, as far as how to increase it. So I think that will address or allay some of our trustees' fellow concerns and how we're doing compensation.
Thank you, Trustee Alvarado.
That's all I have, President Blaine.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Suarez.
Thank you for volunteering me next, but I want to talk just real quick about security, because I don't want to alarm the community. I think that we have a fabulous police department. I think we have a chief that is familiar with his surroundings, but more importantly, employees, police officers that have a tremendous amount of experience that keep our kids safe. Security is never too much. There's no such thing as having too much security. But I will tell you that I feel safe with what we have in place now. And I don't want the community to think that by all means we have shortchanged them in any way. I have two kids, well now one kid in the system, and I feel very secure dropping him off at his elementary school and now at his middle school. So I know that the talks at the TASB convention were that the state was going to allocate more money for funding, but when talking to colleagues from other districts, they are nowhere near where we're at. And like I said, thank you to previous boards, thank you to previous superintendents that have laid the foundation, and so in that area, I think for the most part, we don't lack a lot, but there's always room for improvement. In terms of projects, there's a lot of things that come into play here, and like I mentioned this before, and I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again, but these projects are also important for us to retain kids and retain students and retain parents, and that's important. Just like all of us get different phone calls, I've received phone calls that are telling us that they've been waiting 3 or 4 years for middle school to have athletics, because when they get to the high school, we're behind. I think it was if I'm not mistaken, it was the valedictorian from Memorial during his commencement speech that spoke about the importance of what athletics and extracurricular activities do for kids. And I'm no way in any way undermining the coaches and the teachers that get the kids there. That's obviously the foundation, but it's an integral part of who they become and who they are, because we all know, whether it's theater, whether it's sports, whether it's band, music, it really sets a foundation for these kids at an early age. And I would hate to see those programs cut in any way. But, I am not the superintendent, but I am one to voice my opinions that believe that no kid should be at home at 4:30. In terms of I think I agree with Mr. Alvarado. Where we were a week ago and where we are now, it's not where we want to be, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think that the options that we have seem to be options that are much better than there were before. And finally, I'd like to conclude with, I agree with Trustee Saldivar that from now on, any kind of projects that we're saving money on, or projects that we see reimbursements on, or new loan, or new grants that come in that can replace things that we spent with ESSER or anything else, should be put in a separate bucket. And that bucket, just like any kind of PTO meeting or any kind of HOA meeting, brief us and say, look, at this bucket, at this point, at this month, just like we do with the budget, say this is how much money we've been able to capture, this is how much money we have, so that we're aware of where we're at and where we need to be. So you know, like I said, you know, somebody will not be happy at the end of this meeting, but for the most part, I think that we need to keep the students and the teachers involved, I mean, in our decision-making. So I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Trustee Suarez. Trustee Aliceta.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why everyone's still talking about projects that, the superintendent already said that, he put that to bed already. He already said point blank, projects are off the table. Dealing with the workshop that we have, the scenario that we have, the money's come from the fund balance, and so the projects are off the table. Also, people say that we haven't been talking about this all year long, but all year long, we have had enrollment presentations, and all year long, we have understood that our enrollment is declining, and all year long, we still kept funding projects and funding new positions and new ESSER positions. So I don't think it's fair to administration to beat y'all for that, since we're the ones that were asking you to do it, and we're the ones that were voting up all these new positions. But so I feel like we should stick to what we have right here. We're at the 11th hour, and we have these scenarios that have been proposed. I do have a question. Trustee Saldivar was talking about on the project on the back of the administrative positions, and you have administrative education versus administrative management. In May, you did a presentation that had different staff groups. Is school leadership considered? Is that the AM, the administrative management, and then central administration is administrative education, or are both AM and AE in central administration or professional support? So this is the one I'm talking about, Todd. Back in May, you gave us this.
Right.
And it
Yes,
had
ma'am.
those, and I think that's what Trustee Saldivar was trying to figure out, was where those, how many are in those category, and are they part of the 430 support staff, or are they part of the 32 of central administration, are they part of the 79 school leadership? They're
sorry.
all there, aren't they?
So school leadership is your APs, your principals, your teacher supervisors, and your athletic director.
Okay.
I know we presented that at one of our workshops. I can go back and try to pull it out, but we had actually identified the staff that made up those 32, and I forget the other number.
It's the
that we
May,
had.
I think it's from Peen's October 29, but anyway, it's okay, that's okay, I digress. So I'd like to talk about the scenarios that you presented. Obviously, I'm not happy with a scenario D to throw out there. I think that we need to work on, like I've been saying, the slope for the teachers, the 0 year to the 20 year. So keeping in the dollar amount, not going into anymore into the fund balance, which I do have concern with, that we don't have that much in excess in the unassigned fund balance, so it makes me very, very nervous that y'all are doing that. But those are the scenarios that we have. But I'd like to see the 0 year teachers only get the $500. This is what I suggest. 0 year teachers get $500, 5 year teachers get $1,000, 10 year teachers get $2,000, 15 year teachers get $2,500, and 20 year teachers get $3,000. That makes the difference $13,000 versus $10,000, and it gets them, instead of a 21% difference, it gets them closer to a 27% difference in their pay. I think it's real important that every time we have an opportunity to do our budget, that we're constantly, that's our focus, is on that slope, on keeping our tenured teachers, on rewarding them for staying in their profession, keeping them in the classroom. And I don't know what dollar-wise that gets to if you change the amount to 500 and then the 3,000. I don't know if that keeps you in that same parameters. Somewhere I have a spreadsheet that has how many teachers we have. Well, actually, Region 1 did the whole schools thing. I'm sure you guys have studied it back in person for. And they had how many teachers are in each category. I didn't realize we have teachers that have been here. I think we have 150 year. Yeah. But I don't know how everybody else feels. But that's how I feel for the teachers and librarian category. I think that it's important that everybody remembers that everybody that works in this district got $5,000 last year. They got a $3,000 Christmas stipend. They got a $2,000 spring break stipend. So everybody has that they have. And when I'm focusing really on the administration, I think that it's important that they remember that they got that $5,000. I say we hold the line at administration, and we keep that money from administration and throw it to the scenario that I just gave you. And then the rest of the staff, they get the 3%. Or if it allows the 4%, I'm talking the bus drivers, the custodians, all that. So what I'm suggesting is admin professionals, we hold the line, it stays at 0. All other staff, we do the 4%, and then the 0-year teachers, 500, 20-year teachers, 2,500, with the breakdowns in between is what I'm suggesting would be scenario D. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Vella.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a brief comment or two. I don't think that picking one scenario over another is going to make our situation any less precarious going into next year's budget. You could pick any one of the four, and we're still in a pretty tough situation. It's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute and hoping Superman comes by and picks you up. I'm not sure he's even in the air yet. The only way to balance the budget going into next year, we can get by with it this year, but next year it's a combination of increasing our revenues. Either Austin changes our funding model, which is not likely, and even if it does, it wouldn't be until the end of next year's budget. We increase the number of students in our school district, and that's a tough one. We've been trying that for the last 18 months, and it's a tough nut to crack also. Combining either one of those two things with severely cutting our recurring expenditures is going to be the only thing that saves us going into next year's budget. Not this budget that we're talking about, but the budget we have coming up. There's got to be some severe belt tightening, or we're going to be in a really tough place to be. The scenarios, pick the one everybody likes, and that's fine, because even if you pick the one they don't like, you're not going to save the budget going forward. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you, trustees. All right, that will wrap up our discussion on the compensation plan options for the school year 2022-23. We'll move on to discussion of the voter approval tax rate elections, the VADER. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. This is discussion on the option of seeking a voter approval tax ratification election. It's placed on the floor, so.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, sir. What we have shared with the trustees are 3 documents on there. The first one that we have, I'm bringing that one right up, had to do with a presentation that Mr. Josh Haney presented to the district back at one of our workshops, March 7th. It would have been our second budget workshop on March 7th. And just a reminder, I just pulled out the slides that related to the voter-approved tax rate election. And again, this slide here was just reminding everybody that what we have available are 17 cents. That's the cap. If we ever have our VATRE approved, 17 cents is the cap on there. The next slide is that right now we do have 12.86 cents of permanently adopted voter approval tax rate election pennies on there. So in essence, the difference between our cap and 17 cents and the 12.86 right now, our tax capacity is 4.14 cents. That's what that particular slide was for. The next item that we attached on there was some documents from TASB. And if we go further down, just trying to highlight some of the items. There is an efficiency audit here because of people have asked me about this declared exemption. The district can always opt to move forward with the inefficiency study. That's not a problem. It's not required for the next 2 years, 2022 or 2023. So as we look at, and we'll go back to another document that talks about timelines, we can still set it up with that same timeline or set an internal timeline on there. And talk about the uniform election dates. The next one would be November 8th would be the election date that would be best benefit the district if we wanted any of those pennies to assist with the budget or additional compensation or different, whatever the board determines they want to use that funding for. The last document we've got is the timeline itself. And on the timeline, again, we're talking about and here, we're gonna bump this up just a little bit here. On here, we've already pretty much gotten through the deadline of, the thing we're going to wait for, right now, we're probably right around here on June 30th, where we're needing to adopt a budget, and that does need to be adopted before June 30th. Here we talk about the efficiency audit. That date, the timeline for that would have been July 8th. And what that means is the Board of Trustees would have had to have selected an auditor to conduct an efficiency study by July 8th. But because it's not required this year, that particular timeline or deadline is not in effect. It can happen now, it can happen later, at any time at this point. Because if the district elects to move forward, of course, that can be done. We're looking at July 25th. That's when we receive our certified values, and that's going to be important in calculating our tax rate on there. Kind of going down the calendar, we're looking at August 22nd. It's 78 days prior to the election. Again, the deadline's deadline to order an election to be held in November, which is the uniform election date. And we've had to have had the budget adopted by then. We also have to have our tax rate adopted by then. That's where our MCR, our maximum compressed rate, comes in. If you look over here, we're looking at having that about August 5th so that we can have the tax rate adopted prior to or on August 22nd so that we can then, because we have the deadline for the order on there. And then it takes us back down to November 8th, which would be the uniform election date. So those are the three documents that we have provided the trustees for review, as y'all discussed.
Ms. Richards, in simplest layman's terms. Okay, that was a lot of great information. You gave us a great timeline. Can you explain what the voter-approved tax ratification election is?
What the voter approval tax rate election is, it allows the trustees to seek approval from the community on raising the maintenance and operations tax rate by a possible 4.14 cents. This does require approval from the community, a majority approval from the community, in order for us to move forward. Those particular pennies would be set for the remainder of the district, which means we would receive funding for those moving forward if the community voted to approve that.
And our current maintenance and operation tax rate is at what?
Right now, our current M&O is, well, the one that we posted on the paper was $1.0197. That was the rate that we posted in the monitor right before we had our public hearing.
Okay, do we know,
That's what we're looking at right now, 1.0197.
where does that put us in comparison with other school districts around Region 1?
Right now, of course, a lot of the 2022 tax rates have not been approved, but when we look at 2021 tax rates, out of about 16 school districts that the Hidalgo County Tax Office services, we're 6th to the lowest tax rate.
6th to the lowest?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
6th to the lowest.
Okay.
And again, like I said, our M&O tax rate right now is predicted at 1.0197.
Okay. We'll open it up to the board. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Trustee Suarez.
Mr. Richards, what does this tax ratification do to the average homeowner or taxpayer in the city?
Well, it would be an increase to their taxes, in addition to what they've most recently had, which most people have been affected by an increase in their property values.
So an average $200,000 home would, let's make it simple, an average $100,000 home, we're looking at a tax increase of how much?
4 cents per 100.
Trustee Saldivar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Right now, the disaster pennies, which the board approved without voter approval because it was a declared disaster and we're allowed to do that. And so we've been charging for 1 year the taxpayer 0.0289. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
All right. And that expired at the end of May, or does it expire says expires 21, 22.
That was effective for the tax year 21. Tax year 21 is the calendar year from January through December. It was for
Okay, 'cause
those
it
tax
said on here,
collections.
expires after 21, 22 school year.
Yes, that's our school year versus the calendar year for tax collections. Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right, okay. All right, and so right now, if we were to go forward with this, I think it would have to require the efficiency audit. Because we would have to demonstrate to the community everything we've done and everything where we are, and that this request is to make sure that we attract and retain qualified teachers to educate their children going into the future, and that's all it's gonna be for. So, if I'm the only one that's fine with it, then that's okay, but the fact of the matter is, I think the community needs to know how efficient we've been with the funding in order to gain trust for them to even consider this as a possibility. And it's a risk, I get it, it's a risk, but the community also needs to know that we're heading into some really difficult times in being able to fairly compensate our teachers and attract and retain teachers to be what McAllen has always been, which is an innovative district with innovative programs, innovative teachers that at least sometimes 2 generations had the same teacher and got quality education. That's all I have to say about that. If it doesn't get any traction, it doesn't get any traction. But it's a fair thing to discuss. And I've had conversations both ways, but when I explain what I just explained, even the naysayers will say, well, I didn't know that. And that kind of makes sense. If you're going to use it for teachers, it kind of makes sense. It's something for me to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Saldívar. Trustee Peña, are you requesting time?
Yes. This idea is a hard no for me right now. I think that at this point, I hear you. I just came on the board and I understand that the board's been lean and done some really great things to, keep us operating, but I will not support an increase in taxes when gas is almost $5 a gallon, when we are practically, or I'm just going to say, we're in a recession for all intents and purposes. I will not ask, I don't care if it's only 4 cents on every $100, and it ends up being $40 or $400 in extra taxes for depending on what your home value is. Home values are going up, or at least the tax base is going up, and so, no, it's a hard no for me right now. I will not ask our community to approve a tax increase. And furthermore, I think that our administration needs to tighten their belts. And I'm gonna end it with that. Let's just be more prudent and more responsible in how we approach the future. We already know the budget is tight, so sometimes that happens, when everybody lost their job, and, well, not everybody, but the people that lost their jobs during the pandemic, everybody had to learn how to live differently and how to adjust their budget. And I think that we need to do better as a district and start being a little more prudent with our spending on special projects and start really looking at how we can save money, and when we save that money, we need to put it back into our teachers. If we do that and we show the community that we're taking every step to ensure that we're saving money and putting that towards keeping, retaining, or hiring quality teachers, then I think we're on the right track. I will not support a tax increase, and if this idea passes, I will buy a t-shirt that says no taxes, and I will wear it every day. I promise you.
I believe
No,
Beverly's
I will
here
not
and would bling it
support-
out for you.
I will not support increasing taxes at all right now.
Thank you.
That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Trustee Peña. Trustee Vela.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few questions for Ms. Richards, please. We have taxed at 17 cents before, haven't we, Ms. Richards?
We have not.
What's the highest we've taxed
I'm
at?
looking at a tax rate history from as far back as 2007, tax year 2006, and the highest has been $1.1650.
half a penny off,
Yes, and one of them was during a declared disaster tax rate.
right?
Year when we moved the pennies over, yes, sir.
And what year did we lower it back to?
We lowered it back down by a penny in 2016. And then, of course, because of HB3, it started compressing the tax, so you'll see that decrease starting in tax year 19 and forward. And that was the result of HB3.
So I'm just doing quick math. So the last 2 years, these pennies have not been charged. If, big if, Ms. Peña, if it were to go to an election and pass, we would be going back up to 2017, 2018 year taxes. Is that right? Half a penny?
Yes. And not including whatever the
No.
compression may be.
Right, okay, thank you.
Trustee Suarez.
The biggest concern that I have with doing this, and we have a room full of educators here, is that we're gonna ask the community to vote on something, and if it doesn't pass, for whatever reason, it's a slap in the face to our educators, and I don't wanna use them as a selling tool or as a reason to campaign for this. And not that Mr. Saldivar said that at all, because that's not what he said. I'm just thinking out loud of how different people would perceive this. And I would never want to put any employee in that position. And I'll yield the floor with that.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Aliceda?
You know, I have mixed emotions on this. I mean, I'm very conservative, but as an elected official, fiduciary duty on this board, we have a duty to look at all means of generating revenue for this school district. And that is a means of generating revenue for the school district. So, you know, maybe do put it out to the voters and let the voters decide. I don't think 7 of us up here, I think it would be more fair to have, you know, community as a whole decide versus us right here stop it at this level. I don't have a problem with taking it out and letting the community decide if that's something that they're interested in. And like Trustee Vela mentioned, we've been at that rate before, and then we gave the pennies back. I'm very conservative, but I think that, you know, we owe it to this district to look at every way we can generate revenue.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Alvarado?
Ms. Richards, I just want to clarify, how much would it generate? Roughly about 3 million, right? Somewhere around there?
Yes, sir.
If this were to pass?
Yes, sir. Because we generate about 828,000 per penny.
Okay, but overall total about, you know, Los Meadows 3 million, somewhere
Yes,
around
sir.
there, right?
Yes, sir.
How much is a 3% raise costing us this time around in one of those past scenarios? Is it about 6 million?
4 million.
The raises were about, yes, sir, they were, based on the scenarios we had, 6.4. I can pull that one back out again. 6.4 million.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I don't need that. I'm just trying to, in my mind.
6.4.
So, in my limited math skills, so if something like that were to pass, it's about 1%, 1.5%, right? That we'd be able to guarantee that would go to our staff every year. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. I'm also in the camp of Trustee Ali said I have mixed emotions as well, so I just want to clarify to see what that was. That would give us a little bit of foundation if it were to pass. And I understand all the other points as well too. I mean, I really do. It's a tough call, but that's the starting point, and we're able to find at least match that every year. He's looking at 3%, 3 to 4% every year, which is going to get us, you know, where we need to quicker. So I'm glad we're at least talking about it. It's you know, ultimately though, it's not us. It'll be up to the voters, but I appreciate at least having a discussion on it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Alvarado. Any further comments on the Vader? With none being heard, can I get a motion to adjourn the workshop?
Well, wait. I mean, we're adjourning the workshop, and then we're going to go into the board meeting and vote on the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
But no one's talked about the holiday pay, or is anyone going to talk about that? Are we going to talk? It's in the, okay.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The ayes carry it. 5. Sophia, were you voting in favor of adjourning or not in favor? Yes, in favor. Okay. The ayes carry it 7-0. A special board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the McAllen Independent School District will be held Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022, beginning at 5 p.m., actually at 5:03 p.m., in the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom in the Administration Building of the McAllen Independent School District at 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen. At this meeting, there may be discussion and action by the board on the items and subjects as listed as follow. 1, call the meeting to order. 2, public comments. We do have public comments, so I will pull up our list of public comments. We will remind you that you have 2 minutes for your public comments. I will count you down. You must stay on the topic that you have brought up. Any leaning away from those topics may cause for your time to be repealed. And a reminder that the board will not be able to interact with you during the public comments. So, first public comment stepping up is Ann Fortescue, enduring the value of MISD partnership with IMUS. So we'll invite Ms. Fortescue up to the microphone, and we will start your 2 minutes when you start.
Thank you, and good afternoon, President Farino and MISD board members, for this opportunity to affirm the value of the partnership between MISD and the International Museum of Art and Science for our community. I'm really excited about our work together and eager to share its importance. Last year, MISD took a forward-looking step in making a one-time investment in the future of McAllen kids and families with their support for innovative, interactive educational experiences at IMUS that will last decades beyond the 2024 ESSER funding window. MISD builds pride among students and families by co-creating learning experiences at IMUS across generations that promote the value of education as a path to a prosperous future. MISD is a leader in museum school partnerships to realize applied learning beyond the classroom, embracing the duty of providing all children a well-rounded education.
1 minute.
That prepares them for the future. MISD recognizes education is at the core of a prosperous community, and helping to transform IMUS is essential to teaching how we use art and science for a better future, while meeting the district's curriculum and instructional needs and performance measures to perform students for higher education and the workforce. MISD has already started this work with IMUS to develop these innovative, interactive educational experiences. Elementary Science and Social Studies Curriculum Coordinator Stephanie Beltran participated in the exhibition development meetings with designers Tom Rockwell from the Exploratorium in San Francisco.
10
and
seconds.
Maribel Ibarra and Set Solis from Siete Colores in Mexico City. I look forward to updating the board on our progress at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fortescue. Next up, we welcome Hadi Nambudiri to discuss the ESSER funding to IMUS.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't know that this trustee board meeting is a very serious discussion of deliberations. I'm so glad that MISD is taking a step for the future of the kids. I had the opportunity to work with you, some of you all. And again, I want to echo what Anne said. And you believe in the future of the city and you believe in the future of the kids. And this interactive and innovative exchange for the cultural, socio-economic development of the city, it is imperative that we have to have full support for the International Museum of Arts and Science. I'm sure that you will consider seriously making a difference in people's lives and teaching the kids a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, in support of IMUS, we welcome to the microphone Mr. John Gerling. Dr. Gerling. Dr. Gerling, your 2 minutes will start when you do.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I have a new appreciation for what you people deal with on a daily basis. But the year was 1958. I was an 8-year-old attending school in Dallas, and we had a certain advantage over most other school districts. We had the state fair in Dallas, and every year we would get a day off to attend the state fair. Now, usually you went to the Midway and you rode nauseating rides, ate junk food and everything. Well, in 1958, I think I had a little too much of both of those, and I decided to go for a walk instead of riding more rides. And so I went walking around the state fair, got away from the Midway, and I happened upon a museum. At the time, I don't think I even knew what a museum was, but I just happened on the museum on the campus of the state fair, went inside and had wonderful experience. Two things really stick out to me. They had a planetarium where you can learn about all the wonderful things that go on in the night sky, and they also had a thing called a radiometer. You've probably seen one before. It looks like a fancy light bulb, little thing spin around inside of it.
1 minute.
Turn the light intensity up. It spins faster, and I remember looking at that thing and just thinking, how in the heck does this thing work? I traced that back, and that was the spark that led me to excel in STEM, okay, so science and mathematics. And if we fast forward, if any of y'all have been to the office, I think, Marcos, you have, it's almost like a museum, okay?
You have a lot of my money, Doc.
Okay. Well, I've got a lot of things there, and one of my favorite mottos is we want people to have so much fun they forget their learning. And a museum can do that. And I hope we can continue this strategic relationship with the school board. Y'all are very forward-thinking. That's evidenced by all the awards y'all get. And I, again, am just amazed at
10
all
seconds.
the factors y'all are dealing with. So thank you very much with your audience. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Dr. Gerling. Okay. Next up, we welcome Marcus Barrera to discuss the elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds allocated to the IMUS, the International Museum of Arts and Sciences.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to start off by thanking you for all that you all do. The accolades that y'all have received are bar none to the rest of the valley. Y'all don't get enough recognition for that. I remember being on the commission. Everybody points out everything bad you've done, but nobody ever talks about the good things y'all do, so I'm going to do that. And just thank you. And I'm proud that my kids are going to school here in the McAllen School District. Even though they go to McAllen, not Memorial, I'm still proud of them. But anyway, again, thank you for all you do. I'm here in favor of, or in support of the funds to IMAS. I think it's going to be a great stimulator for kids. Part of this COVID relief emergency funds, part of their purpose is to accelerate learning. There's no better way to do it than having them go to IMAS and having a symbiotic relationship with IMAS. You have teachers and you have classrooms, but a lot of times the classrooms are not the best environment for teaching. And if IMAS can provide these alternative environments to help the teachers excel and help the kids accelerate their learning,
1 minute.
I think it's just a tremendous win-win situation. So I hope that you keep those funds allocated for the museum. I think all of us have participated in the museum, and it really did make an impact on me. And when I grew up here, having to go there and going through all of the things and programs that they offered. The Children's Museum is going to be top-notch, and I encourage you to keep the funds. Again, thank you for all the good things that you do.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera. Lastly, Vivian Tamez to discuss decompression. Welcome back, Mrs. Tamez.
It's been so long. Okay. I know you think of equity as all, but if some administrator salaries are at 4.5% above market and the average teacher and librarian's salary are 7.74 below market, that is not equitable. Equity is when everyone is on the same level. That is a true district of champions. And decompression, maybe you need perspective. The difference between a new teacher and me is 30 years and $11,000. Loyalty and staying in the district for 30 years has earned me $11,000. How does this create synergy? It seems like we should have systems and processes in place to make sure everyone feels valued. And Memorial and Mackay need a third theater director. Just need that. It's a demand. How are we supposed to be the district of choice when we limit those choices and opportunities for our students? If Memorial and Mackay had an extra athletic coach somewhere, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I am self-aware. I know what I am saying. I know I'm just asking you to be empathetic and motivate employees through equity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That will close our public comment session. The board will now recess to closed session. By Board of Trustees may go into closed session pursuant to sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. A, human resource recommendations for school year 2022-23. B, human resource employee resignations for school year 2021-2022. C, pending and/or potential litigation. Or D, possible real estate acquisition. At 5:14, we are in closed session. For the record, there was no action taken while we were in closed session. We'll move on with the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move up item 6A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to bring forth item 6A. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it, 7-0. Item 6A, approval of compensation plan for school year 2022-2023. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. For Board Policy DEA Local Compensation and Benefits Compensation Plan, the superintendent shall recommend an annual compensation plan for all district employees. The compensation plan may include wage and salary structure, stipends, benefits, and incentives. The recommended plan shall support district goals for hiring and retaining highly qualified employees. We have Mr. Miller, our Assistant Superintendent for HR, who will share more information, and we are requesting action on this item. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. As noted during the recent workshop, administration presented 4 different compensation plans. All compensation plan options include a one-time holiday pay component. Administration is recommending the following. Compensation plan scenario C. Administration is currently recommending salary increase for teachers and librarians as a minimum of $1,700. Entry-level salary for teachers with 0 years experience is recommended at $278.88, which is $52,150, as a minimum salary for this compensation plan, with $334.92, which is $62,630, for new teachers at McAllen ISD with 20-plus years of experience as a maximum salary for this compensation plan. The recommended salary increase for administrative professionals, parentheses AEAM, is $1,700 for all employees in AEAM classification. The recommended salary increase for all other employees is 3% from their midpoint as per their classification within the compensation plan. One-time holiday pay, scenario C. Administration is currently recommending a one-time holiday pay stipend of $1,500 for all employees who are employed by the district on a full-time basis as of September 15, 2022, and remain employed as of December 1st, 2022. Eligible full-time employees are defined as persons employed by the district for at least 27.5 hours per week to include bus drivers and bus aides. This one-time stipend will be paid during December 2022 and is contingent upon the availability of funds and consideration of the district's revenues and fund balances at the time plans for such payments are presented. This one-time stipend would be considered as non-DRS compensable. Additional payments made to staff are a part of the compensation structure and are conducted with the intent to recognize and honor the dedication, loyalty, and contributions of our employees.
Mr. President, I move to approve scenario C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of scenario C. Any comments, questions?
Mr. President, staff,
Trustee Saldivar.
we're just talking, thank you, we're just talking about, we're not talking about scenario C on the, holiday pay, right? We're just talking about the compensation rate this time.
Talking about both, sir.
Correct?
That
No,
is
sir.
discussion of both, sir.
So the motion is for both C's on, holiday pay as well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. Is there a plan to, put the salary structure on our website for the salary schedule by the administration?
For yes, that we have that on there. We will have that on there tomorrow morning, whatever's approved tonight. We already have it drafted in HR.
There is a draft ready to go dependent on our vote, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? We will proceed with a roll call vote. Item C, scenario C is what's recommended. Trustee Alvarado.
Aye.
Trustee Alvarado is in the aye. Trustee Saldivar.
Nay.
Trustee Saldivar is a nay. Trustee Peña.
Aye.
Trustee Peña is a yes. Trustee Vela.
Yes.
Trustee Vela is a yes. Trustee Suarez
Yes.
is a yes. Trustee Aliceda?
No.
She's a no, and I am a yes. The yeas carry it 5-2. So we will go with scenario C with 5-2. Move. Trustee Saldivar.
Thank you. Just to be clear, the administration is recommending that everybody, is gonna get a decompression review no matter what year they are with the district. Is that correct?
That is true. The budget does include equity adjustments for our rating 019 that comes from TASB. We've also looked at the 20-plus year teachers for equity adjustments.
Just for point of clarification, Mr. Saldivar, I don't mean, I know you have the floor, but is that going to be discussed during the, and we can ask these questions during the approval of the budget, or is that
It's already included in the budget as a line item in the budget.
line item? Perfect, okay.
I just have a question.
Got it. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, trustee Saldívar. Any other comments, questions? None being heard. We go back to item number 5. 5A, approval of human resource recommendations for school year 2022-2023. They submitted a list of recommendations under separate cover for discussion during closed session. Administration is recommending action on this item. What
Move
say
to
you,
approve.
board? I have a motion by trustee Suarez, a second by trustee Vela. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Mr. Alvarado, I'm going to assume that there was a delay and you were in the affirmative? Thank you so much. That carries 7-0. Item 5B, Human Resource Employee Resignations for school year 2021-22. HR submitted a list of resignations for the 2021-2022 school year under separate cover for discussion, and that is for information purposes only. Jumping down to item 7A, approval of the 2021-2022 low attendance waivers. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. TEA approved attendance waivers. It allows districts to drop any attendance day up to 4,200 operational minutes for the 5th and 6th 6 weeks reporting period. Administration determined that the majority of unexcused absences were attributed to COVID, as this was the only variable from previous years, and these waivers, if approved by TEA, will potentially increase the district's funding, and administration is recommending action on this item.
Move to approve really quick.
We have a motion by trustee Suarez. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a trustee, Sophia Peña, with the second. Any comments or questions?
Really quick, do we have a number of how that would help? How many?
Yes, sir, we do. It's approximately about $300,000 if TA approves.
An approximate swing of $300,000 depending on the approval of TEA.
Got it.
All right. Any other comments or questions? None heard. Agreed, sir. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it 7-0. Trustee Alvarado?
He's an aye.
You're an aye. Thank you, sir. Item 7B, ratification of the 2021-2022 designee waiver approvals. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Due to in-person meeting restrictions earlier in the 2021-2022 school year, the Texas Education Agency allowed for school boards to approve the superintendent as a designee for waivers. The TEA requires that all waivers approved by the designee be ratified by the school board, and we are requesting action on this item.
All in favor, do we have a motion on the floor? It's the sour skills. We have a motion by trustee Suarez. Is there a second? Second by trustee Peña. Any comments or questions?
Point of
None.
clarification. Who was
Yes,
the,
sir.
Who made the motion?
That was Sam Saldivar,
Oh, okay.
and trustee Peña was the second.
Making sure.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes carry it 7-0. Moving on to item 8A, approval and adoption of the McAllen Independent School District budget for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022, ending June 30th, 2023. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The Texas Education Code and Board Policy CE requires every local education agency to prepare a budget of anticipated expenditures and revenues on or before June 19th. The budget is to be approved by the McAllen Independent School District Board of Trustees no later than June 30th or earlier. The official budget is comprised of the general fund, which includes food service and debt service funds. Additionally, the McAllen Independent School District has administratively opted to officially adopt the capital projects funds. This is a two-motion agenda item, and administration is recommending action on this item.
What say ye, board?
Move to approve.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Approve, I'll do the first one. The approval of the adoption of the accelerated instructional funds budget of $90,600 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020, and ending on June 30th, 2023.
For the record, July 1st, 2022, ending June 30th, 2023. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a second by trustee Aliceda. Any comments or questions? None heard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Alvarado.
He's an Aggie, man. He's a little slow.
As quick as that Aggie baseball team today. Sorry, my bad. Motion number 2, Trustee Peña.
I move to approve, for approval and adoption of the general fund budget of, oh my gosh, I can't even read it.
It's kind of like what's in your bank account.
No, I just, wrong glasses, 270,432,014. The debt service fund budget of I can't read it, 6 million. Let me do this. 6,813,200, and the capital projects fund budget of 22,636,181 for a total budget of 299,881,395 for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Trustee Vela. Comments, questions?
I need a good eye doctor.
I have somebody I can recommend.
Thank you.
All right. With none being heard, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it 7-0. Thank you very much, Board. You're against. Excellent, sir. 6-1 is the... You voted in the negative, 5-2. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 8B, approval of contract number 2023-045, Walsh, Gallegos, Trevino, Russo, and Kyle, PC, through RFPQ 2023-1000. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The administration solicited proposals for general legal counsel services. Elizabeth Cabrera, Interim Director of Purchasing Services, is available to answer any questions you might have, and we are recommending action on this item.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Trustee Suarez. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Peña.
Mr. President, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Mr. Vela will be abstaining from the vote. Any comments or questions? With none being heard, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All against, say aye.
Nay.
I vote nay.
The ayes carry it 4-2, with one abstention. Item 8C, approval of agreement number 2023-048, legal consultation agreement with O'Hanlon, Demarath, and Castillo. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir. Administration utilizes this agreement for professional legal consultation. We have Mrs. Cindy Medrano Richards, our Assistant Superintendent for Business Operations, who will share more information, and we are requesting action on this item. Ms. Richards.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. You can see, I'm going to go over the fees and expenditures because that was the question we had the last time we presented this. And it indicates here that the hourly rates for personnel assigned for this matter will be $165 per hour for attorney work performed by the attorneys in the firm, $95 per hour for work performed by paralegals, and $45 per hour for work performed by law clerks. And time will be billed at 0.25 hours increments. Again, expenditures in addition to our fees will be entitled to payment or reimbursement of all costs and expenditures at the actual rate charged to the firm incurred in performing services in this engagement, such as messenger or delivery service and travel, including mileage at 50 cents a mile. We talk about parking, airfare, and ground transportation, and copying charges. You will not be charged for long-distance telephone or facsimile transmissions. And we are requesting approval for this item.
Thank you, Mrs. Richards. Board, what say you?
Mr. President, can I say something before we vote on this?
Of course, Trustee Saldivar.
Again, these legal services or any vendor should be pricing their hourly rate or their rate or their bid for whatever it costs. And the school district should not be using taxpayers' money that's entitled for students and compensation of staff to pay for their expenses, especially travel. So I don't think we should take, we should send this back again, and, if they want to do business with us, then they have to take out any of that cost or expense. That should be included and incorporated. We shouldn't be paying for that and taking money away from our teachers and our students for the needs they have in the district. This is a cost of doing business.
Thank you, Trustee Saldivar.
I have a question for Ms. Gonzalez. They're currently vendors now, right?
Yes, sir.
Have we ever been billed for travel or?
Not to my knowledge, usually the consultations are over the phone.
Trustee Peña.
There's a flat fee for this contract, right?
It's used, basically PRN, what we say PRN, but it's as needed, and when administration calls them for, legal consultation.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Trustee Alvarado.
I know, their law firm has represented us in level 3 grievances. They haven't submitted any mileage or any other expenses when they represent us? Ms. Gonzalez?
Coming up, Mr. Alvarado.
Not to my not to our knowledge, it's most of the, you're saying when they present, like at court? I don't think we've had mileage, I don't think we've had mileage on any of our invoices that come in.
Ms. Cabrera, when they come to administration
Right.
to represent for a grievance
Right.
hearing, they have not charged us mileage to your knowledge.
The invoices that I've seen, to my knowledge, have not included mileage on there. The invoices as they come in, yes.
All the more reason to take that out, there shouldn't be there at all.
Yeah, I'm inclined to be consistent. We did that with Gallegos, and I'm inclined to do the same with them to keep it consistent.
I'd like to make a motion to table this.
We have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Trustee Saldivar. All in favor of tabling this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it 7-0. It is now 6:08 PM, and we have wrapped up all of our business for today. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I have a motion to adjourn by
Second.
Trustee Suarez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Peña. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The ayes carry it 7-0. At 6:08, our meeting is adjourned.